Hi everyone, welcome to Nursing 547. I wanted to make a video just to give some introduction to the Blackboard site so we don't have to use class time on Wednesday for that. This is the view that you should see when you log into your Blackboard for Nursing 547. Announcements will be found here. I've put out two. One was a welcome announcement, and one was a reminder to put on your calendar for the OSCE Objective Structured Clinical Exam that will be on April the 7th, and we'll have more information about that later in the semester. There's some information, just that who is your clinical instructor, and that's me. The syllabus is here, and it just has your basic housekeeping information that is available here and is also available on TopNet. Just be sure that you are familiar with the course objectives. Also, the course description is important to know when you are searching for a clinical site, because we are looking for settings that have an emphasis on health promotion, management of common health problems, and health education in infants, children, and adults. So be sure and review this, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me about that. Let me get us back to our video here. Our next section is going to be on the SOAP notes. And if you click here, we have lots of information that's pertinent to this class. Be sure and review the rubric for Nursing 547. Hold on, I got too many things opened. The rubric for Nursing 547. And what I want to bring to your attention is, first off, you do not use this rubric as what you type in for a clinical note. This is just your guidelines, so put it in a Word document and use the components as part of your SOAP note. Be sure and pay attention to the highlighted areas, and remember and review where references are required. The big thing that I wanted to remind you of is under your assessments, be sure and note that you have to use Dynamed as your source of information for your differential diagnoses. And in case you've forgotten or are not familiar, if this is your first clinical class, that is a database that is found on the library section of the Western website. And then when you're working up each of your differential diagnoses, I'm looking for these categories to be addressed: the diagnostic criteria for the diagnosis, potential clinical manifestations of the diagnosis, patient clinical manifestations, and any critical thoughts to include or exclude that. And this information is going to be found on Dynamed, but this information is needed for each one of these diagnoses. And be sure, as I said, to include your references and a CPT code for the diagnosis. We're also looking for screening that's appropriate to the age, and there are two sites where you can get this information. One is the Preventative Task Force site, and the other one is brightfutures.org. And I've also included in Nursing 546 the didactic component of this class that I would like for you each to have a guide, a Bright Futures pocket guide, and this is something that you're able to keep in your lab coat or with your things at work, and it's broken down according to the different ages and give lots of good, valuable information that will be helpful to you in your clinical setting or as you are learning in the didactic class. So I really think that it's an important tool to have. I think it's approximately $10 or $11. So be sure and review the rest of the components of the rubric, and if you should have any questions on that, reach out to me. I do offer a sample PEDS note. I'm not going to go through that right now, but if you have any questions regarding that, reach out. Here is a snippet of the Metatrax interaction levels, And in the beginning, you may just be at a level 0 or a level 1, but our goal is by the end of this class, you're going to be at a level 3 or a level 4. If there's concerns about that as you're progressing in your clinical course, reach out to me, or if I'm noticing concerns when I'm reviewing your Metatrax entries, I'll reach out to you as well. So your SOAP notes, these are our due dates that are tentatively set up. I'm expecting you to have at least 30 hours of clinical experience underneath your belt before you submit a SOAP note. So if you are a little later on starting your clinical time and have not, sorry for the call, and you have not started your clinical time, and will be able to submit the SOAP notes in this timeline, that's not anything to panic about. Just reach out to me and we can discuss it by email, and we will figure out when your first SOAP note is due. SOAP notes are due by 11:59 of the end of the day that it is listed. Be sure and look at, again, the sample SOAP note that I've provided. We're looking for narrative format and not in sentence like you're writing a paper. Many sections of it can be in bullet. You're looking for professional terminology, and spelling does count. How the SOAP note applies to the patient's chief complaint, and presenting issues. I'm looking for your diagnostic reasoning and your differential diagnoses and appropriate plan that has been recommended. This last section speaks to clinical logs and your PCAMs. Your PCAM is the patient-centered assessment method that will be used with your first three SOAP notes. And there's documents here, and I encourage you to review those and learn more about your PCAMs. Most of you have done 2 PCAMs in Nursing 505, but this can be a refresher of the requirements that are needed for the PCAM. PCAMs are found in Metatrax and should be under your evaluation tab in Metatrax. Also, here is some more information on your clinical logs, the requirements that are expected to be completed in those. Here is an example of what a well-completed Metatrax entry includes. Of course, all of the demographic information that you will enter, the diagnosis codes, the type of visit that it is based on this criteria that you have chosen, other billing categories that can be included with your visit. In this one, a CBC was drawn. They did some testing. There's a charge for venipuncture. I also want you to be sure and associate your diagnosis codes with your medications. So if you say that someone has hypertension, then how are you managing hypertension? In this case, they are on a diuretic. So we need to have a tie-in between the diagnosis and the medication, and vice versa. If you put down here that they are on metformin for diabetes, then diabetes needs to be listed up in your diagnosis code. These are just examples of the categories that we are looking to have completed. So review this, and if you have any questions or concerns, reach out to me on that. And then finally, this bolded area down here is a video that has been made by Dr. Brandstetter that gives more detailed instruction on completing a PCAM, and I think that you might find that to be helpful. Let me get out of that. Maybe. I'm afraid if I go all the way out of this, we're going to lose Blackboard, and that's fine. And the last thing, excuse me, is resources. I have included a large number of different assessment tools that you might use or you may see used in your clinical setting. So please feel free to review these. If you find a particular tool that you find very helpful that you and your preceptor have used and you think it may be beneficial, to the class, feel free to drop me an email and with a link to it or an upload on it, and I can include it in this section. There is also this last section. These are books that our guest speaker is going to likely bring up during her first course with us. And these are snippets of the books that I've taken off of Amazon just so that you could see what the content of the book looked like. If it was something that you thought would be beneficial for you in practice. So if you have questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm excited to have you in clinicals this semester, and I look forward to learning with you. Thank you.